Hey, good morning everybody. It's Mark and I'm back to go over another new design with you. Today it's this new butterfly bank design. This is what it looks like. I really like it a lot. I really still haven't gotten tired of doing the spray paint fading colors like this. Really a lot of fun. This is easy to make just like all the other banks. It'll take about probably about 3 sheets of material, but some of that will be maybe an 1/8 inch and some of that will be quarter, and one piece of that will be acrylic. So I'll go through all that with you in just a minute, but this is what it looks like. Let me just point out a couple little things before we jump into the file. First of all, the thickness of the bank itself is determined completely by how many spacers you put in here. I recommend no fewer than 3 spacers, and honestly, it's even better with 4 or even 5. And of course, that does add to your material cost, so I understand that. But if you do less than 3, you will end up having people put like paper money that's folded in here and it'll get stuck and it won't come out very easily. So I recommend at least 3 and maybe 4 or more. Also, I highly recommend that you use 1/4 inch material for the spacers. If you use 1/8 inch, it's just going to take so many pieces. So go with 1/4 inch instead. The actual caliper measurements of your material doesn't matter for these, except, let me see if I can do this on screen here, except the base piece. These tabs go into these holes here, and you're going to have to measure your material right here to make sure that this fits nice and snug so that it stands up straight. If you don't, it's going to want to tip over. So make sure you know how to do that. I've got several tutorials showing you exactly how to do that with all of the major programs, so you shouldn't have any trouble with that. But again, I recommend that you use 1/4 inch for the spacers, at least 3, preferably 4 or more. One other thing people always ask about, how do you get the money out? You can put a door in the back of these, and I have a free one that I can put in the description that you're welcome to use if you wish. For this particular one, I found that the door was a little clunky because, let me show you the back, I don't have it painted, but the way that the body of the butterfly is made, you really can't put a door right here because it'd be too small. So you'd have to end up doing it right here. And you're going to end up having change down in these bottom pieces that might just be hard to get out the door. So I decided to not do it for mine. I'm just going to dump it out the top the same way that it came in, no problem. All right. So with that, let's jump into the file and I'll show you how it all works. All right, here are all the pieces to the bank. We're going to start from the left and go through them all the way from left to right. So the first thing you see here is the base, and this is part of the only 2 pieces that you may have to adjust for your material thickness. So make sure you measure your material with your calipers, specifically the piece of material that you're going to use for the very back piece. I highly recommend that that be somewhere in the neighborhood of a 1/4 inch. And what you're going to do, let me zoom in even farther, you're going to measure your materials and you're going to edit the height of these 2 slots based on the thickness of your material, okay? I think that kerf doesn't really matter in this case. You can just go ahead and cut it at the thickness that you measure with your calipers. It'll tip ever so slightly, but since you're going to glue it on anyway, it's going to be just fine. So don't worry about kerf on this one. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and ungroup these so that you guys can, if you're using a Glowforge, you can go ahead and edit these directly in the Glowforge software. I highly recommend that you get a good vector program, but if you need to do it quickly, you can do it right here in this case. So that's one thing you're going to need to do. And then in the extreme scenarios, if you end up using 1/8 inch for this base piece, that also means that these tabs that are on the bottom of the back piece are going to need to be shortened, okay? If you're using 1/4 inch, it can be just fine. But if you use 1/8, these are too long and they're going to stick out and make the butterfly stand up a little higher and you're going to see the tabs. So just make sure you honestly don't use 1/8 inch, but if you do, you're going to have to adjust those. All right, so let's zoom back out and I'll show you all the pieces. So again, that's the base piece. This one, and by the way, I made these upside down and right side up so that it would fit a little tighter on a piece of material for you. Obviously, you can cut them however you want. So this first piece is the very back piece, which is this piece right here. And then the next 3 are what I call the spacers. I referred to those earlier, which are these right here. And I want to point out one thing, of course you see it, is that the head of the butterfly on all 3 of these spacers is a loose piece. It's not a big deal when you're gluing it together, but just make sure that they don't move on you while they're drying. So I recommend using a small clamp or something like that, and just watch it for the first couple minutes while your glue is drying. Make sure it doesn't slide around on you. But as you can probably imagine, I'm going to go ahead and flip these around so we can just talk right through it. So in this case, you're going to take your spacer, you're going to glue it right on top of the back like this, and you're going to glue however many you have. You're going to glue them all on just like that. And of course, these pieces will be loose, but they'll glue on top of each other and glue to the back piece. And that, of course, creates the 2 slots in the top of the wings for the money to go in. Okay, I'm going to undo that, put it back. You have 3 spacers. I know I mentioned in the beginning, you can use more. I recommend using more. 4 is a nice number. If you have enough material to do that, that's really great, and it does pretty well. All right, and again, if you need to get the if you need to get the money out, you're just going to turn it over and dump it back out, unless you want to use the door, and I'll include that with a link in the description there. So there's 3 spacers, and then there's just 2 more pieces. This one right here that is green, I made it green so that you could kind of see it immediately. All of the lines in this design are all cut. There's nothing but cut. But that green layer is the top piece here, and I used 1/8 inch for this top piece because I don't need it really thick. So you can use 1/8 or 1/4, whichever you prefer, for this top piece. And that just glues on top of the acrylic, which is the blue one here to the right. And it's just blue to let you know, hey, this is different. This is acrylic. I used 1/4 inch on this. Honestly, the only reason I did that is I didn't have any 1/8 inch on hand. Definitely use the thinner, slightly cheaper material. There's no reason to use 1/4 inch on this one. But starting from the back again, you've got the back layer, you've got your 3 or more spacers, then the acrylic goes on next, and then the top piece goes on top of that, and then you put your base on, and you are good to go. I hope that helps. I'd love to see what you guys make with these. Have fun, and show me some pictures. Talk to you later.